The entire village believed God had abandoned them, except one farmer who kept smiling through the drought. His name was Elijah Carter, and while fear consumed everyone else, he trusted only God. But inside Elijah's tiny home, things were falling apart. Some nights, Sarah pretended she wasn't hungry, so Lily could eat the last piece of bread. Yet every morning before sunrise, Elijah still walked to his dead field to pray. Instead of asking God, "Why me?" he simply whispered, "I trust your plan." Then Elijah did something that shocked the entire village. He began planting seeds into dry, lifeless ground. And the villagers laughed harder than ever before. Even Elijah's best friend Daniel lost hope. "Open your eyes," Daniel shouted. "Prayers won't save us." But Elijah quietly replied, "God has never failed me before." Days later, fear destroyed the village faster than the drought itself. Neighbors began stealing from each other, and even good people became cruel. That night, little Lily looked at her father and asked, "Daddy, what if God doesn't help us?" Elijah hugged her tightly and whispered, "Sometimes God waits, because he's preparing a bigger miracle." Later that night, Elijah walked alone into the dead field. He fell to his knees and cried, "Even if I lose everything, I will never stop trusting you." Then, suddenly, thunder shook the heavens, and rain began pouring harder than anyone had ever seen before. 3 weeks later, the impossible happened. Because while everyone else surrendered to fear, Elijah kept planting seeds with faith. The same people who once laughed at Elijah now stood silently outside his farm. No one knew what to say, because the man they mocked was now the only reason they could survive. Then Daniel stepped forward and completely broke down in tears. "I mocked your faith," Daniel cried, "but you never stopped believing." Elijah smiled softly and replied, "Faith doesn't mean you never feel fear. It means you trust God more than your fear." And then Elijah did something no one expected. Instead of taking revenge, he opened his farm to everyone. Families cried while receiving food. Children laughed for the first time in months. That evening, village chief Thomas approached Elijah alone. "I spent my whole life believing money controlled everything," Thomas admitted, "but your faith saved this village, not wealth." Later that night, little Lily sat beside her father beneath the stars. "Daddy," Lily whispered, "was God listening to us the whole time?" Elijah smiled warmly. "Every single moment. Sometimes God allows storms, because faith grows strongest during droughts. Fear tells people to stop planting. Faith tells people to keep going, even when nothing makes sense. And sometimes the miracle happens because you refuse to give up on God. But not everyone celebrated immediately. The wealthy merchant who once mocked Elijah could not even look him in the eyes. During the drought, he cared only about saving his money, but Elijah cared about saving people. For the first time in his life, the merchant realized wealth could not protect the heart. An old woman from the village slowly approached Elijah one morning. Tears rolled down her face as she whispered, "I stopped praying during the drought, but your faith reminded me that God never stopped listening." That night, Sarah quietly sat beside Elijah near the field. "There were nights," Sarah whispered, "when I was afraid your faith would fail us." Elijah gently held her hand and smiled. "Faith doesn't mean never feeling weak. It means trusting God even while you're afraid." Weeks later, something beautiful began happening across the village. The children started planting seeds everywhere because Elijah taught them never to lose hope. And for the first time in many months, laughter returned to the village. Years later, people still told the story of Elijah Carter, not because he became rich, but because he refused to stop trusting God when everyone else gave up. Because sometimes the greatest miracle is not the rain. It's the faith that survives the drought